Thursday. What's up, everybody? It's hump day, although it's actually going to be our last stream of the week because I am traveling tomorrow. I'm going to the East Coast. Yeah. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, or good day. It might be a different day where you are. Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Hope everything is well. Hope I'll see you in Portland on April 25th. You're hearing it here first. Tickets aren't available yet, but Graham Elwood and myself will be in Portland on April 25th. What's up, Tony? What's up, the one who knocks? What's up, Lucy? How are you? How is everybody? I hope everybody is doing terribly well. I'm doing great. And we had an internet hiccup yesterday, and I'll do a quick update on that. So I called my cable company and I told them, hey, the internet's going out. It's way too regular. What's going on? Turns out, apparently, there is some interference going on in with my modem. So something might not have been installed properly, or there's some kind of interference going on. They were able to see that. So hopefully next week, this all gets sorted out. Did not have the most pleasant day yesterday. Was a frustrating day. But the good news, when I kept saying, hey, there's something up with the internet, and this goes beyond the stream. This was just like when I'd be uploading stuff, or even when, me and my fiance would just be watching Netflix or something. And I'd be like, something is up with our internet. It's not supposed to be like this. Well, turns out I wasn't crazy. Turns out there really was something up with my internet. Let me check one more thing here, and then we'll jump into what's going on with the strikes, because stuff's going on. Okay, just making sure. All right. Stuff is going on with the strikes. Stuff's happening. All right. Here we go. So this is from yesterday. We're going to start with this is from yesterday. I wanted to talk about this, but I didn't get to because our stream ended abruptly because of the internet glitch. All right. Which, by the way, Trump was also in Los Angeles yesterday, and I had internet issues. You know what that means? I blame the windmills. But anyway, here's what happened with the strike yesterday. Here's what CBS News had to say. UAW strike could cost GM up to $100 million per day. As talks continued into the night with no end to the United Auto Workers strike against General Motors, the union walkout could prove costly. By one estimate, the hit to the automaker could reach $100 million per day. Isn't it interesting? The strike's financial impact could be high, with Citigroup estimating GM could lose as much as $100 million in operating income for each day of the strike. Now, even though this is a day old, the reason I still wanted to cover it and still wanted to mention it, isn't this just symbolic to how strikes are always covered in the corporate media, if they're covered at all? Whose perspective are they giving? The perspective from GM. This is what GM stands to lose. The headline wasn't the workers could miss rent. Workers are worried about their ability to put food on the table. Workers are scared about their ability to make rent, but they know they need to do this because they're not being treated properly and they have no other recourse. Workers are struggling. That's not the headline. Wait. Sorry, I gotta. Yeah, that's not the headline. The headline is GM might lose some money. And who do we want to hear talk more about GM? Citibank, or Citigroup, rather. Same difference. They all have generic names. Eventually, there's just going to be like one thing, and it's just going to be like Corporation Corp. That's going to be... This should be Corporation Corp. It's a bank, and they produce shit, and that's all they do. And that's, let's see what Citigroup has to say about all the money poor GM is losing. Oh, here we go. If you scroll down later in the article, a couple paragraphs down, picket line worries. On the picket line Monday at GM's transmission plant in Toledo, Ohio, workers who said they have been with the company for more than 30 years were concerned for younger colleagues who are making less money under GM's two-tier wage scale and have fewer benefits. Paul Kane from Southline, Michigan, a 42-year-old GM employee, said much of what the union is fighting for will not affect him. Why couldn't that be the headline? Why wouldn't the headline be workers are standing in solidarity in support of their younger colleagues? Younger colleagues mistreated, workers still on strike. Instead, GM might lose $100 million per day. That means your car might be more expensive next time. That means we might have to just get rid of these jobs. Typical corporate media framing. We do it from the perspective of the company, of the corporation, not from the people. Very, very typical. All right, so here's an update of what is going on today. And this is pretty interesting here. So Politico published this, and Politico claimed that that the White House was getting involved. Politico said the White House is getting involved. In fact, let me show you the headline here. White House intervenes in General Motors strike. Okay, what did the White House do? How did the White House intervene? Actually, did the White House intervene? Let's read on. This is an interesting article and an interesting little maneuver here by Politico. White House intervenes in General Motors strike. The effort would effectively put the White House on the side of United Auto Workers. Okay. The White House is seeking to end the United Auto Workers strike against General Motors with an agreement that would reopen an assembly plant in Lordstown, Ohio, that GM shut down in March. The effort, described to Politico by two people close to the matter, would effectively put the White House on the side of the workers. If the effort is successful, it could boost the president's reelection chances next year in Michigan and Ohio. One person close to the matter said National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow and the White House Trade and Manufacturing Advisor Peter Navarro are both involved in the talks. So what did the White House have to say? Here's what the White House had to say. This story is false. Deputy Press Secretary Judd Deere wrote in an email. The Trump administration, including Larry Kudlow and Peter Navarro, are not involved in the negotiations between the UAW and GM. As President Trump has said, we would like to see a fair and speedy conclusion to these talks. So Donald Trump basically said, hey, I want to see a speedy and fair conclusion to this, which is something you would expect a president to say, which basically is just, hey, hands off, you guys solve it. Hope it's a fair resolution. But check it out. Politico, in their own article, disproves their own headline. They're saying, oh, by the way, this is false. But they still keep the White House intervenes in General Motors strike. Why? Because that's a juicy headline. Who isn't clicking on that headline? I sure as hell did. Y'all were intrigued. But it just isn't true. And they didn't change the headline. Great job, Politico. Man, that is cutting edge reporting. That is... this headline's doing us a solid. We'll mention 5 paragraphs down that the White House isn't actually doing anything. And I like how they still spend 3 paragraphs saying, hey, this will help Trump with workers. This will help Trump in Ohio and Michigan. By the way, Trump's on the side of workers. Then 6 paragraphs down, oh, by the way, they're actually not involved in the negotiations. Wow, Politico. Wow. And you know, a lot of people, they're just going to read that headline, or they're going to read that headline and skim the first few paragraphs. And what are they going to walk away with? Hey, Trump's actually helping out workers. He helped out the auto workers. No, he didn't. He didn't get involved. He said he hopes that there's a resolution and that it's fair. That's what any president would say. Politico, and this is more a reflection of Politico than anything else. They keep the headline. So right now, the auto workers are still on strike. They're still going back and forth. The White House is not fighting on behalf of the workers. That's not true. The White House just sent their well wishes. The White House basically sent thoughts and prayers. That's what the White House did. And that's basically what any White House would do, at least as far as who's been sitting in the White House in my freaking lifetime. Why? Because since 1980 and even a little bit before, we've had this new wave of neoliberalism, which is completely a lift on all protections for workers when it comes to the relationship with corporations. Unions have been destroyed since 1980. And that largely started when Reagan went after the airline industry. That's how all that started. Reagan went after the airline industry. They decimated the union, and that was the start of a huge campaign to turn workers against their own interests, to turn workers against unions when they could, and to spread misinformation campaigns about unions, and it was successful, and it's still successful to this day. So no, the White House isn't going to intervene on behalf of the unions and the workers. That's not happening. They're going to send their thoughts and prayers, which is what Obama would have done, which is what Bush would have done, which is what Clinton would have done, which is what Bush the first would have done, which is what Reagan would have done. So, but they won't change the headline, Lucy. Can you believe it? Politico, they're like, we're keeping this headline. It's juicy. So hopefully the workers get what they want. And again, this is because younger workers are getting screwed over. And older workers realize that it's unjust, so they're sticking up for their colleagues. They want their colleagues to be treated fairly because that makes a better workplace for everyone. So that's what a union should do. And it's nice to see the UAW behaving the way a union should behave. Now, of course, they're not being praised for it. In fact, this is barely even being covered. You don't see much. And when you do, it's like what we just showed with CBS. They're talking about how much money is GM going to lose. Let's play the violin for GM. I'm glad they're losing $100 million a day. I wish it was more. I wish it was more so that they had no choice but to give those workers everything they wanted immediately, bar none. Well, we're going to talk about the strike. Here's what GM stands to lose. Here's what the stocks are saying. And here's what Citigroup has to say about it. That's your corporate media coverage. That's how a corporate media covers the strike. Do you see who they're in bed with? Do you see who they're serving? Do you see how it's one big elite club? And the corporate media is not the fourth estate. The corporate media is part of the estate. And this is all just a scam. We live in a plutocracy. Hey, we're going to cover the strike. Here's what you have to worry about with your stock option. Here's what GM's losing. Here's what the banks have to say. And 6 paragraphs down, we'll mention the workers. Hey, the White House is getting involved. 6 paragraphs down, just kidding. The White House isn't getting involved. But if they were, it would probably help Trump out. We said that first, by the way. We said how, hey, this is going to make Trump look good with workers. They're on the side of workers. Oh, by the way, this isn't actually true. And Politico keeps that headline up. They don't care. That article started yesterday, by the way. It's been updated since, but it's from yesterday. It was posted originally yesterday. They have yet to retract that headline. Politico has yet to retract this headline. Over a day later. And they know in their own article. This is what happens when you don't have a news structure. When you have no news structure, which we don't in the United States. Again, I used to say our media structure is toxic in the United States. I have since retracted that. The more accurate way to frame that, we don't have a media structure in the United States, and that's toxic. That's why people would rather watch a comedian stream from his living room and get their news that way. Hey, a comedian who's reading stuff in real time. Let's get our news that way because that's better than this heap of shit that passes for news on a daily basis. Great job, CBS. Great job, Politico. A sincere great job to the people out there striking. We're with you in solidarity. I hope you get every single thing you're asking for. All right. So, moving on from the strike news. Lucy, what's up? Lucy she's like, tell the strikers I stand with them too. Tell the strikers I want all their cats to get free catnip for life. All right, Lucy. I don't know if they'll be able to negotiate for that. But if they could, I'd be for it. All right, so here's something interesting. This is from Fight for the Future, which, full disclaimer, I have collaborated with Fight for the Future on a couple campaigns, one of them for net neutrality, the other for banning facial recognition. So we covered what went on in the California Assembly, and there were some victories. There's a bill out there that's going to help out contract workers. There's also a bill out there that is going to there's also a bill out there for rent control. Unfortunately, we failed to move forward with a bill to cut down on plastic use. So there were some victories, some losses. But here's something else. There's a huge bill for privacy out there. And that bill is called the California's Consumer Privacy Act. Now, this deals with a lot of online privacy. We're going to go to the specifics in the bill in a minute. But here's something that's going on under the hood. And Fight for the Future blew the whistle on this conflict of interest. California Assembly member Jackie Irwin sides with Amazon over Californians. California lawmaker should recuse herself from negotiations on state privacy legislation. Close ties to Amazon Ring creates a conflict of interest. Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin proposed amendments to tear down key provisions of California's Consumer Privacy Act. The changes she put forth directly benefit companies like her husband's employer, Amazon. John Irwin, her husband, is the chief operating officer for Amazon Ring, a controversial home surveillance project. So what's going on there, to refresh everybody's memory? Amazon Ring, what they do is they put cameras outside your home when people are knocking on the doors. Okay, that's one thing. You got a camera, someone's knocking on the door, you can see who it is. All right, no biggie. But, what they also do, they have contracts with law enforcement where law enforcement wants you to turn over all your surveillance to them to use however they want, including using facial recognition software. If they get that from everybody in a neighborhood, which they're trying to get as much of these installed as they can, they're basically going to have an entire neighborhood surveilled. That's what's going to happen. And Amazon has contracts with law enforcement that they won't really disclose to the public. They're kind of being shady about it, and that's putting it gently. So this woman, her husband's involved with all that, and she's trying to put forth all these provisions that hurt the Privacy Act. And by the way, most of these provisions have not been approved by the Assembly. Most of them have been shot down. So Politico reported this potential conflict of interest, and hopefully they got the headline right, and Irwin's key role in pushing forth industry-backed privacy reductions. In one key proposal, which was widely criticized by consumer protection groups, Assemblymember Irwin sought to expand the types of data that would not be covered in the CCPA. She also worked to remove a provision requiring companies to disclose or delete data associated with households upon request. These proposed measures enable companies like Amazon Ring to continue to use our data without consent or accountability. So basically, what she called for directly allowed Amazon to use our data and collect it without any type of accountability. That's what she called for directly. So what is this Privacy Act exactly? What all is in this Privacy Act? Let's take a look, shall we? Because it's actually pretty good. And what it's going to do is it's going to set the gold standard, per se, on online privacy as far as states are concerned. So here it is. Let's check it out. About the California Consumer Privacy Act. Here's what it does. Your personal information is being sold to businesses you don't even know exist. The California Consumer Privacy Act will give you important new consumer privacy rights to take back control of your personal information, including, number one, the right to know all data collected by a business on you twice a year free of charge. The right to say no to the sale of your information. Number three, information security. The right to sue companies who collected your data where that data was stolen or disclosed pursuant to an unauthorized data breach. If the company was careless or negligent about how it protected your data, i.e. the data was unencrypted, unredacted, or the company didn't have reasonable security policies and procedures, identity theft needs to be curbed. Number four, the right to delete the data you have posted. Number five, the right not to be discriminated against if you tell a company not to sell your personal information. Number six, right to be informed of what categories of data will be collected about you prior to its collection. Number seven, mandated opt-in before sale of children's information who are under the age of 16. We should never have needed a law like that in the first place. Number eight, the right to know the categories of third parties with whom your data is shared. Take notes on that, Facebook. Number nine, right to know the categories of sources of information from whom your data was acquired. And number 10, right to know the business or commercial purpose of collecting your information. All these seem very reasonable, by the way. All these seem very, like there's just some more disclaimers. And let's be honest here. These are a lot of disclaimers that companies will put out there, and there's a good chance a lot of people won't read them. So, but this all seems totally reasonable, but Amazon has some issues with it. And this assembly member is acting on Amazon's behalf, not on the behalf of the people. And it's good that California is setting the standard for online privacy. It's good that California is setting the standard. So there's still time for them to reconvene on this. I know there's another session in October, and then it can be it can go as far as January. So there's still time for the industry to kind of get what they want here. But hopefully, this initiative stays strong, and this Consumer Privacy Act, the California Consumer Privacy Act, moves forward, and we set the standard for the rest of the country as well. All right, cool, interesting. So here's something else that's going on. Censure is not something you hear about often. In fact, I kind of had to look up exactly what it meant in the political sense. The short of it is, what does it really mean? Not much, actually. It really does not mean that much. But here's what's going on over in Arizona. Arizona Democratic Party will hold vote to censure Sinema. So Kristen Sinema is the Democrat who's not even for net neutrality. All right, but let's look into this. The Arizona Democratic Party is planning to hold a vote this week to determine whether Senator Kristen Sinema should be censured. The Arizona Republic reports the censure vote is due to the fact that progressives in the state Democratic Party see her as too accommodating to President Trump and his policies. Those seeking to censure Sinema point to her vote to confirm David Bernhardt, Trump's nominee to serve as Secretary of the Interior, as well as her vote to confirm William Barr as Attorney General. Additionally, progressives in the Arizona Democratic Party cite Sinema's resistance to joining fellow Democrats in trying to reinstate net neutrality rules to prevent internet service providers from throttling websites. Even Nancy Pelosi gets net neutrality right. Chuck Schumer gets net neutrality right. Pretty much every Democrat, except for Sinema. Sinema's one who does not get net neutrality right. And Joe Biden's another one. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a handful of others. But the Democrats are pretty much in unison on net neutrality. Why? Because over 80% of Americans favor net neutrality all across the political spectrum. And there are some Republicans in favor of net neutrality too. The people want it because we want a free and open internet. We want the internet to not discriminate. The people want that. It's abundantly clear. Kristen Sinema can't even get that right. So they're going to censure her, which basically means it's basically kind of similar to a vote of no confidence. There's no action obligation on her part. She doesn't have to resign because of this, should it go through. She could and she might, but it's basically just a gesture. It's basically just kind of, kind of similar to saying, hey, we don't, it's a strong reprimand, basically, but there's not really any obligatory action. At least I'm pretty sure. Over the decades, several forms of disciplines have evolved in the House. The most severe type of punishment is expulsions from the House, which is followed by censure and finally reprimand. Expulsion requires a 2/3 majority vote. Censure and reprimand, which are imposed by a simple majority of the full House. These are not, so it could involve expulsion. But censure itself does not equal expulsion. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is something that's not used often. So you don't hear about this often. That's why I wanted to make sure, that, so censure itself does not equal expulsion. Expulsion could spawn and be part of it. But expulsion, so I'm looking at this house.gov website here. The sternest form of punishment that the House has imposed on its members is expulsion, an action which has only been used 5 times in more than 2 centuries. The Constitution empowers both the House and the Senate to expel a sitting member who engages in disorderly behavior, requiring a 2/3 vote of those present. Now, whereas censure just kind of evolved, and those are imposed by a simple majority of the full House. So they could, get her on censure, because that just revolves the majority of the House, which are majority Democrats right now. So if all the Democrats stand behind that, they could get her on that. But as far as expulsion, that does not seem likely. You need 2/3 for that, 2/3 vote of all those present. So I don't see that happening to her, nor do I know if it's something that they're pursuing, because it seems like, again, censure and expulsion are not necessarily synonymous. However, one could lead to the other. Now, 538's Trump tracker, which involves good old Nate Silver, it found that Sinema has opposed Trump during her time in the Senate 81% of the time. During her time in the House, where she served 3 terms, she supported Trump's agenda 54% of the time. Okay, now, those are not passing grades. Those are not passing grades to side with the Trump administration over half the time. And you're supposedly part of the opposition party. How are you part of the opposition party if you side with them over half the time? You're not. So we'll see what goes through with that. But censure, not something that's used all that often, mostly a symbolic action. However, could lead to expulsion, could involve expulsion later down the road, or could start with expulsion, then censure later. But again, expulsion has only been used, according to that Gov website, that House.gov website I was just on. Apparently, that's only been used 5 times in the past 2 centuries. So I doubt expulsion is on the table here. Censure is, which, I mean, that's basically just a symbolic gesture. It does get recorded, so it'll go down that she got. So I'm sure it's something that's like, you don't want on your record. It doesn't look good. She might resign because of it if it goes through. She might not. I mean, she shamelessly goes against net neutrality, something over 80% of the public wants, something that anybody with any moral compass knows is a good thing, something that if you're against it, you're just blatantly siding with the internet service providers who want to price gouge our access to the internet, something that is detrimental for democracy, that is detrimental for the exchange of information, that is detrimental to consumer rights. She goes against that with a smile on her face. So we'll see what happens there. But if I had to take a guess, even if it goes through, I doubt she'd resign over it. I could be wrong, but I doubt she'd resign over it. So, oh, and by the way, that story was shared by Truth to Tweet. Truth to Tweet, thank you for sharing that story. Truth to Tweet has a cousin named False to Tweet. And False to Tweet, I never look at their articles. I only look at Truth to Tweet's articles. False to Tweet, I'm just like, look, you're sending me false stuff. I can't. False to Tweet sends me stuff where they're like, hey, look what Politico said. And then 6 paragraphs later, actually, their headline's a lie. That's what False to Tweet always sends me. And I'm like, I don't know, False to Tweet. Unless we're going to dissect this one. I don't know about that. But Edwin shares this. Edwin, thank you for sharing this. Fellow 2020 candidate calls Bernie's Medicare for All plan a losing battle that will set the country back 10 years. Who said this? 2020 Democrat presidential candidate, Senator Michael Bennet. Do you guys remember Michael? Remember Michael? By the way, Michael is such an underwhelming candidate. Michael Bennet is such an underwhelming candidate that Fox News didn't bother putting his name in the headline. They were like, if we put his name in the headline, no one's going to care. We have to just list it vague. Did you guys notice that? Fox News did that headline on purpose so people are curious and are wondering which candidate it is. They're wondering if it's a candidate they've actually heard of or actually has any remote chance at being the nominee, like, unfortunately, a Joe Biden or a Liz Warren. They wouldn't even put his name in the headline. Michael Bennet, you know, Cory Booker forgets he's running for president and then has to be reminded every debate. Michael Bennet is the only person who remembers he's running for president. He has to remind people. He has, no, I'm still running. The last phone call he had with one of his family members. Yeah, no, I'm still running for president. They're like, oh, really? You're still? I didn't see you at the last debate. Yeah, I didn't qualify because I inspire nobody. And do you remember that guy's speech? He talked about kids playing on a playground. It was so boring. I have a feeling that multiple people decided to vote for Trump just out of spite. just out of spite, because they were just like, this member of the opposition party is so freaking boring. I am voting for Trump out of spite. I have a feeling some people did that. Michael Bennet made 5 Trump voters. That's my theory. I don't have any science to back that up, but I do believe it. Michael Bennet, the human nap. They wouldn't even put his name in the headline. Here, check it out. Wouldn't even put his name. They know no one would read. If they put Michael Bennet doesn't like Medicare for all, nobody would read this dumb article. Actually, I shouldn't insult the article. This has nothing to do with the article. All right, so 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, in his mind alone, candidate Senator Michael Bennet challenged fellow candidate Senator Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan on Wednesday, claiming it would set the country back 10 years. Bernie Sanders responded saying, I didn't see that tweet. I actually thought it came from a false account because I thought there's no way a presidential candidate has that few followers. And then John Delaney piped in and said, no, it's totally possible. Look at me. So here's what Michael Bennet said. Bernie says he wrote the damn bill, and I wrote the damn bill when it comes to the public option, he said during an interview on CNN's New Day. I think my proposal would get Americans covered, everybody covered, within 3 years. It wouldn't. And I think Bernie's proposal would leave us fighting a losing battle for Medicare for all for the next 10 years. You mean by saving us money? Guys, it's a losing battle, all this money that we're going to save and get everybody covered. See, once again, the public option's not going to work out because for a universal plan to work, you need everybody in the pool. Everyone needs to be in the pool. Healthy people, sick people, in between people, young people, old people. You get the idea. If not everyone's in the pool, then they're going to have people that still rely on employer insurance, people that just don't want to rock the boat, want to stick with what they have. The private insurance industry is still going to be able to be corrupt and price gouge, and it's not going to work. We're not going to get what we need. And then only sick people are going to get into a certain poll, like the Medicare poll, and then they're going to be able to point to it and say, see, it doesn't work. That's what's going to happen. So no, his plan is not going to work. Michael Bennett's plan is not going to work. The dude who doesn't even qualify for the debates, because no individuals like him, by the way. No individuals like him. There's a difference between Mike Gravel getting screwed out of the debates and Tulsi getting screwed out of the debates and Michael Bennet not getting in the debates. For someone like a Mike Gravel, a Tulsi Gabbard, they try to get anti-war candidates off that stage as soon as they can. And that's been going on for years. That's nothing new. So they cherry pick which polls count and which don't. Someone like Michael Bennet, nobody cares enough. Because otherwise, they would have let him on the stage. They would have made sure that the polls that they anointed, he qualified in them. He's another establishment lackey. They don't care whether he's on the stage or not. Tulsi, they don't want on the stage. Mike Gravel, they don't want on the stage. Bernie, they don't want on the stage, but Bernie's too big for them to get him off quite yet. They're going to try to cheat Bernie. It's just going to happen later. They can't cheat him that openly. He has too big of a following. Believe me, if they could get Bernie off that debate stage, they would. So instead, they just try to make sure it's 9 against 1, including the moderators, actually. So it's more like 12 against 1. So Michael Bennet, they won't even put his name in the headline. He's running for president. Michael Bennet, how do you not have any self-awareness? They don't even bother. I mean, Fox News was smart with that headline. They were smart there. It'll set the country back 10 years. How? Giving us a cheaper healthcare plan will set the country back 10 years. How? Covering everybody will set the country back 10 years. How? Did you have great healthcare 10 years ago, Michael Bennet? Elected officials do have great healthcare. All right, so what else did this snooze fest say? Is this even worth? All right, and I think Bernie's proposal. All right, here's what else he has to say. And I think Bernie's proposal would leave us fighting a losing battle for Medicare for all for the next 10 years. Well, you're wrong. You can think that, but you're freaking wrong. Instead of dealing with the fact that our economy doesn't work for everybody, he's saying this. Our economy doesn't work for everybody. Bernie's the only one who has stood up for living wages. At least who was on that debate stage, who has stood up for living wages and has seen results via Amazon and Disney. Instead of dealing with climate change, Bernie's the only candidate with a real Green New Deal. Tulsi has the off act. Bernie and Tulsi are the only two candidates with real policy ideas to confront climate change. They are the only two. And as far as the Democrats who were on that debate stage, Bernie's the only one. Bernie's the only one. He laid forth a powerful Green New Deal. I wish some of those years were a little closer, but it was still overall a pretty solid Green New Deal. Instead of dealing with other issues that we need to confront, Bernie has been the only candidate who has spoken for universal broadband. Bernie's the only candidate who has confronted student loan debt to the extent that he has, who has plans to cancel it, who has plans for housing, who wants to get housing for all. Bernie's the only candidate, literally the only candidate who has gotten facial recognition right. Bernie Sanders, the only one who has called for a ban of law enforcement, a ban for facial recognition use for law enforcement. Bernie has not called for a ban of law enforcement. That's even I'm not on board with that. It's a little too much. But Bernie has called for a ban of facial recognition use by law enforcement. Bernie's the only one, literally the only 2020 candidate, the only one who has gotten that right. So I think when it comes to other issues, Michael Bennett, Bernie's doing a little bit more solid than you are. Just a little. Bernie's the only one who has, and again, he talks about, the economy's not working for everyone. Bernie's done something about living wages. Does Michael Bennett? No. Something about climate change. Bernie has a real Green New Deal. Does Michael Bennett? No. Something about all the other issues. I just listed a bunch that Bernie has gotten right. Where's Michael Bennett on all those? He's probably asleep somewhere. Michael Bennett, so boring, they can't put his name in a headline. I'm running for the most powerful position in the world. And a journalist knows that putting my name in a headline won't equal viewership because I'm so boring and uninspiring and nobody knows or cares about me. Michael Bennett, drop out, dude. Get some self-awareness. Drop out and take Delaney and Biden with you. And Beto, take them all with you. Such an unbelievable clown car of shit in this Democratic primary. Just a bunch of shameless stooges who are unapologetically parroting the industry and the corporatocracy's narrative to try to make sure a progressive doesn't get in the White House. It is unbelievable how anybody can look at this and say, we deserve better. There is no polis that deserves this shit. We, the people, deserve better. And next time someone tries to blame voters for the mess we're in, it's not voters' fault. It's the system's fault. It's the fact that both parties are bought by Wall Street. Yeah, no one deserves this. No one deserves these horrific choices. And I don't blame voters for this because there is so much propaganda that gets shoved down people's throats on a daily basis. So much propaganda that, this isn't electable and this wouldn't work out the way you think it would. And it's all just a bunch of industry approved lies. That's all it is. Medicare for all would save us money. It'd be cheaper and it would cover everybody. The public option wouldn't work because it wouldn't have a national pool, which is what you need. Where's my evidence for that? Every other industrialized country on the frickin' planet. All right, so this next story. Hang on, Lucy. I gotta look at my paper here because I write down who to credit here. She's like, you interrupted my zen-ness. I was falling asleep to the smooth sounds of you ranting against our political system. What's up, Lucy? So I have to go out of town soon. I don't know if she knows yet. She always senses it, and then she starts acting a little squeamish. I don't know if she realizes it yet. But once she does, she'll get a little clingy. She'll get a little weird. But I got to go out of town, which, by the way, there's not going to be a show tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling for some wedding issues. I'm not on tour. I got some wedding traveling to do because I'm getting married. A lot of y'all know that. So I got some wedding traveling to do. I'll tell you all more about it when I get back. But anyway, this comes from Linus, who shared this in our Reddit subsection. And this is about Edward Snowden. So I saw the headlines on this. I saw this in the blogosphere. I have not read anything about it yet. But basically what happened is Edward Snowden is publishing a book, and the government is saying he shouldn't be able to make any profits from it. They want to make sure he can't make money on it. So that's essentially what's happening. Linus, dropped this article in our Reddit subsection. So here's the Huffington Post article that Linus shares. Justice Department sues Edward Snowden for book proceeds. The government says the former CIA and NSA official's new book, Permanent Record, violates his non-disclosure agreement. The Justice Department has filed suit against NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, seeking to seize any proceeds he makes from his new book, Permanent Record. Now, the suit would not block the publication of Snowden's book, which did come out on Tuesday, but rather seeks to prevent him from profiting from it. The suit names the book's publishers as defendants, which DOJ said was intended only to ensure that no funds were transferred to Snowden. Edward Snowden, so this is what they say, Edward Snowden has violated an obligation he undertook to the United States when he signed agreements as part of his employment by the CSA and NSA contractor. All right, so they're basically saying that, and on Twitter, Snowden encouraged his followers to buy the book the government does not want you to read, and suggested that the publisher print excerpts from the government's furious objection to the publication of this book on the cover of every copy. That is a good idea. So basically what they're saying is, like the long and short of this is, the Justice Department is saying, hey, there's a bunch of procedures that when you work for us, when you work for the CIA, when you work for the NSA, there's a procedure you have to follow if you want to publish a book. We have to review the manuscript. Edward Snowden didn't follow the procedure. Edward Snowden is saying, yeah, I didn't do that because I kind of felt like you guys wouldn't give me a fair shake. Now, I don't know why Edward Snowden would feel that way. The government has been so fair to him so far. They've been really fair to him the way they've treated him. You know, like it totally could have been viewed as a political offense and not a criminal offense, and then his trial would have been a lot different. Obama could have done that. Totally didn't do that. And that's why he's in exile. So I don't know why Edward Snowden thought, gee, based on who I am and based on what's transpired so far, I feel like you guys wouldn't give me a fair shake here. I feel like it wouldn't be fair. And the Justice Department is saying, I don't know why you'd feel that way, Mr. Snowden, but you can't make money off your book. And he's saying, hey, buy it anyway. You know, a really fun way around this, get it from the library, which leads to another question. Will this book be readily available in libraries, or will the government try to try to stop that from happening? That's a fun question. Now, it just came out on Tuesday, so there's a good chance it's not going to be in a bunch of libraries quite yet anyway. But I encourage everybody, here, let me search. Let me see if it's at my library. Let me just do a quick search because I'm genuinely curious. Now, if it isn't, that doesn't necessarily mean anything quite yet because, again, it just came out yesterday. I feel like today's Thursday because it's our last stream of the week. Today's only Tuesday. So it just came out yesterday. So if your library doesn't have it, don't be like, you're censoring. Don't run to the hills quite yet. It came out yesterday. All right, but I am going to search here. All right, so the book is called Permanent Record. All right, so let me go ahead and do a little search. Do a little search here. Oh no, this is not the about. I want to search the actual library. It led me to one of those Google search things. That's annoying. I don't want that. Using the library. I just want to search. Why can't I just search? Why is this so hard? Resources. Search the catalog. There you go. It's really not that hard, Ron. You were just looking at the wrong tab. Oh, they do have it. 9 holds on first copy, returned on 1 copy. So wait, maybe this article is a little older than I realized. When's this article from? Oh no, this article is from yesterday. Okay, so it did just come out. All right. My library has it. Library where I live has that book. So there you go. Problem solved. Get that book from your local library, which apparently libraries are carrying it. Maybe it's an act of dissidence on the library part, which is awesome. You know me, I am 110% pro-library. And I'm going to go request this book soon. That's the way to get around it. Edward Snowden's not getting any royalties. Get it from the library. That's what you do. So there you go. Justice Department, you didn't follow our procedures, Edward Snowden. You probably wouldn't give me a fair shake. Well, you can't make money off of this. Well, I want people to get this book anyway. And that is a good idea he has. They should show verbiage from the Justice Department objecting and put that on the cover of the book. That'd be pretty punk rock and defiant. I like it. All right, so permanent record, Edward Snowden's new book. Shout out to the Justice Department for doing great marketing for that book, because that's really what they're doing. Not on purpose, but that's what they're doing. You're encouraging people to look into that book. And I'm going to be getting it from my library soon. All right, let me see what y'all are saying. And shout out to our sponsor, ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea, it kind of rules, because tea's awesome. Gotta love tea. Big Baby Zubas. Big Baby Zubas. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Notary S. Are you familiar with the data union in Europe that says companies should pay for using your data? Notary S. No, I am not. I am not familiar with that. Email me an article or tweet me an article about that, because I'd love to look into it. That is incredibly interesting. But I'm not familiar with that, Notary. I am not familiar with that. But thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. And Big Baby Zubas, thank you very much as well for the Super Chat contribution. Guys, tour dates, I got them. RonPlacone.com. We're going to Australia in November. Do not wait. Get your tickets now. Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. Melbourne's going fast, folks. Get your tickets now. Australia, we can't wait to see you. Get your tickets in November, for November, rather. December, we got some shows coming up, by the way. We're going to be at the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club December 13th. December 14th, we're going to be at the Dojo at the Sycamore Tavern. That's Graham Elwood and myself. We're going to be previewing our 2020 tour. So we're doing some Southern California stuff to preview our 2020 tour, which is going to be a fun time. And we're going to have a lot of dates coming up in 2020. We got some that are available now. Seattle, April 24th. Portland, April 25th. We're coming. Tickets will be available real soon for that. Tucson, February 8th. Tickets are available now. You can get all those tickets at ronplacone.com. And more announcements will be coming very, very soon. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/RonPlacone. For a giveaway level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, including a patrons-only stream. Once a week, I do a stream only for the patrons where you leave comments on Patreon, and that's what I respond to. I respond to your questions. I respond to your suggestions. I respond to articles you send. And that's the patrons only stream. So please consider that, patreon.com/RonPlacone. And you help me expand the show. I want to do more interviews like we did with David Rovics. I want to do more segments. I really want to start that cooking segment. I got some more ideas for it. That's totally going to happen. Guys, I'm traveling the rest of this week, so we aren't going to have a show tomorrow. Clips are going to be coming out all week, but no show tomorrow. The next show will be Tuesday because I'm traveling home on Monday. So the next show will be Tuesday. I'll probably be coming at you with some clips, some clips from the show and some new clips as well. I'll be doing clips on my phone. But as far as the live stream is concerned, our next one will be Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. I will see you guys then. I will miss you in the meantime. And until then, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. She's right here. Can't really see her that well. But Lucy says meow. And I say peace. Peace.